Hey brother, you seem so stressed. What are you doing?
No, nothing. I just stumbled upon an article about slavery during the American slavery period. So I think this is kind of interesting. Okay.
Megat, Maruf. Hi.
Oh, Nuri. Hi.
Assalamualaikum.
Shalom.
Hey man,
Hey.
you good?
Hi.
Alright.
Okay.
Megat, where are you? You with Maruf? Okay, I'm coming. Hi guys.
Hi.
Sorry for being late.
It's okay, no problem.
Hey,
Hey Maruf,
Ibrahim.
how are you? Hi Megat.
Long time no see.
Bigger day today.
Hey.
Hey Nuri, hi.
Hi.
Beautiful hair,
Thank you.
as usual. So let's start.
Hey, you guys look so tense. What topics are you guys discussing? Do you want to share?
I'm stressed about reading the African American slavery, how they were treated. It was very terrible. Do you want to know when the slavery was started?
Yes.
It was when
Slavery was hugely important to America. I mean, it led to a civil war, and it also lasted what, at least in U.S. history, counts as a long-ass time, from 1619 to 1865. But slavery is most important because we still struggle with its legacy. So yes, today's episode will probably not be funny, but it will be important. Without Southern cotton, the North wouldn't have been able to industrialize, at least not as quickly, because cotton textiles were one of the first industrially produced products and the most important commodity in world trade by the 19th century. And 3/4 of the world's cotton came from the American South. And speaking of cotton, why has no one mentioned to me that my collar has been half popped this entire episode, like I'm trying to recreate the flying nun's hat? And although there were increasingly fewer slaves in the North as northern states outlawed slavery, cotton shipments overseas made northern merchants rich, northern bankers financed the purchase of land for plantations, northern insurance companies insured slaves who were, after all, considered property and very valuable property. And in addition to turning cotton into cloth for sale overseas, northern manufacturers sold cloth back to the South, where it was used to clothe the very slaves who had cultivated it. But certainly the most prominent effects of the slave-based economy were seen in the South. The profitability of slave-based agriculture, especially king cotton, meant that the South would remain largely agricultural and rural. Slave states were home to a few cities, like St. Louis and Baltimore, but with the exception of New Orleans, almost all Southern urbanization took place in the upper South, further away from the large cotton plantations. And slave-based agriculture was so profitable that it siphoned money away from other economic endeavors. Like, there was very little industry in the South. It produced only 10% of the nation's manufactured goods, and as most of the capital was being plowed into the purchase of slaves, there was very little room for technological innovation, like, for instance, railroads. This lack of industry and railroads would eventually make the South suck at the Civil War, thankfully. In short, slavery dominated the South, shaping it both economically and culturally. And slavery wasn't a minor aspect of American society. By 1860, there were 4 million slaves in the U.S., and in the South, they made up 1/3 of the total population. Although in the popular imagination, most plantations were these sprawling affairs with hundreds of slaves, in reality, the majority of slaveholders owned 5 or fewer slaves. And of course, most white people in the South owned no slaves at all, although if they could afford to, they would sometimes rent slaves to help with their work.
Oh my god, it is so inhuman, man. I cannot brain how they treat another human like that back then. But after all, I think we should be grateful that we are not practicing slavery anymore today, right?
You know guys, there are many elements of slavery. One of them is xenophobia.
Oh, what is xenophobia?
Well, according to my research, what I have found, xenophobia means dislike of or prejudice against people from other countries. For example, white people are so scared about black people.
Have you read any book content of xenophobia, Maruf?
Yes, we found some elements of xenophobia in novel as well as in the movie. The movie name is Color Purple.
Did you say the color purple? Can you tell us a bit about the color purple?
So basically, the movie The Color Purple is based on the novel, and this is the story of one black family during early 1990s. So in this movie, there are some elements which we can see like xenophobia and other racism, these kind of issues they highlight.
So, bro, did you find any xenophobia element in the novel?
Yes, I find one element of xenophobia in the novel as well as in the movie, where there's one black girl called Sophia. This black girl actually got imprisoned by she abused one white husband. So she was imprisoned and she had to do slavery, kind of slavery, maid. So what happened actually, one day the black girl was taken by one white girl to black girl's village, and what actually happened, there were so many boys who were black, and this girl suddenly got so scared about these people because they were thinking like maybe these black boys, they will do harm to this white lady. So that's all I know about xenophobia.
Do it, I can do it. I can put this thing in reverse and I can make it go the right way. Come on.
Can't get it out of reverse.
Come on, take off your clothes.
Talking about the color purple, it reminds me of the novel The Underground Railroad. Have you heard about The Underground Railroad? It's a very fascinating novel, because it explores slavery and also American history in a very unique and interesting way. As we discussed about the elements of xenophobic just now, it reminds me to the other elements, which is the process of dehumanization, which also included in the novel The Underground Railroad. According to this website, The Underground Railroad, which introduces Cora, a young African woman who journeys to freedom from the antebellum South on a fantastically imagined physical railroad. So throughout this story, the main character Cora, she stops at multiple towns and cities. With each of the cities, she received a brutal treatment of slaves and black people. So there are many examples that actually highlight the process of dehumanization implied towards these black people.
So basically, what example can you give regarding dehumanization from the novel?
That's a very good question, Maruf. One example I can give on the process of dehumanization in the Underground Railroad is where Cora was still squinting over his idiocy when she got her first bowl of the soup. White men trying to kill you slow every day, and sometimes trying to kill you fast. Why make it easy for him? That was one kind of work you could say no to. Its scars will never fade.
When you saw your mother sold off, your father beaten, your sister abused by some boss or master, did you ever think you would sit here today without chains, without the yoke, among a new family? Everything you ever knew told you that freedom was a trick, yet here you are. Still we run, trekking by the good full moon to sanctuary.
Let's go back to the color purple. There is also an element of rebellious in the novel. So I've read this blog that talks about the element of rebellious in the color purple. So in the novel, they depict that black people are considered as property. The character Sophia, for example, she was invited by the mayor's wife to be her maid. For example, in the scene,
You children are so clean. Would you like to work for me? Be my maid?
Hell no.
What did you say?
Hell no.
What did she say?
Hey, can't you pump that crude a little faster?
Gail, what did you say to Miss Millie?
I said hell.
Oh, Miss Sophia. No! Miss Sophia, no!
in the other novel, The Underground Railroad, there was still an element of rebellious. The main character, Cora, had to rebel in the end of the story by killing the main antagonist, which is Ridgway. Ridgway have been blocking her freedom all this while. When she had enough, she snapped and she killed him. For example, in this scene. She waited until the slave catcher was on the third step. She spun and locked her arms around him like a chain of iron. The candle dropped. He attempted to keep his footing with her weight on him, reaching out for leverage against the wall. But she held him close like a lover, and the pair tumbled down the stone steps into the darkness. They fought and grappled in the violence of their fall. In the jumble of collisions, Cora's head knocked across the stone. Her leg was ripped one way, and her arm twisted under her at the bottom of the steps. Ridgway took the brunt.
Okay guys, that reminds me of another element, which is elements of escapism. Do you guys know what is element of escapism?
No.
Do you know about him? Alright, so let me explain. What is escapism? According to dictionary.com, escapism is defined as the avoidance of reality by absorption of the mind in entertainment or in an imaginative situation, activity, and etc. Even during slavery, they too have their ways of escapism from the brutal reality. In The Color Purple, Sally would read the letters sent by Nettie in passing her time. It is one of the activities that would make her happy, even being kept by such a brutal husband. Other example is that she felt relief when she could sing and smile without any criticizing her. Thanks to Shad, she knew there was hope for her life enjoyment. For example,
apples, 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 apples. Apples. Iron, 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 iron. Kettle, kettle, kettle. Eggs, eggs, eggs. Shelf, shelf. Honey, honey. Honey. Jar, jar, jar. Window, window, window. HAIR, yeah. ARMR, yeah, Celie. Sleeve, SLEEVE, sleeve. And See? Stop it.
The element is also shown in the Underground Railroad novel, where Cora tends to her garden as her escapism. She was given half day off work every Sunday and she would embrace her garden and take care of it. It is her sense of ownership towards the garden that creates her escapism from the truth of the reality of being a slave. In the Underground Railroad, Cora tends to her garden as her escapism. She was given half day of work every Sunday and she would embrace her garden and take care of it. It is her sense of ownership towards the garden that creates her escapism from the truth of the reality of being a slave.